Thank you for watching our coverage of the weekly TWAB for Destiny 2. The TWAB for this week is quite large, so I apologize for the length of this video. However, there's a lot of needed changes for PvP, as well as some slight adjustments to PvE. To start off, we're going to be covering some grenade changes, starting off with the Flux Grenade. The base cooldown has been increased from 82 seconds to 182, as well as having the attached detonation damage from 150 to 250, which makes it a one-shot kill in PvP. Due to this change, the Flux Grenade now has a very long cooldown, but it's a one-shot kill in PvP if you manage to land it. There's some other slight changes with the removal of projectile tracking, a small amount of aim assist being added, as well as an increased throw speed by about 117%. Firebolt Grenade has also had a slight reduction and increase. The base cooldown has been reduced from 82 to 64 seconds, a reduced damage per bolt from 90 to 65, an increased damage versus PvE combatants by about 15%. The base cooldown time is now shown on the character subclass screen. However, at the moment they are currently disabled due to a technical issue, but is planned to be fixed within the next future releases. The system that Bungie is implementing is now being called the Variable Ability Cooldown System, and they're thinking it's going to be the beginning of a big change for the Destiny 2 sandbox. Here are a few key goals for this new system. In PvE, super uptime should be relatively unchanged from the live game, if not slightly higher. Everybody should get at least one super in a 6v6 match that goes to the score or time limit as long as they engage in regular combat. Super should be less frequent in 3v3 modes than in the live game, where 2 supers per match is a fairly regular occurrence. Primary weapon play should have a noticeable benefit in super energy regeneration. Different supers should come online at different times in a given match, and your super of choice should have an impact on how quickly it regenerates. And with those changes, Bungie has separated the supers into cooldown tiers that affect both the passive regeneration rate as well as the damage-based regeneration rate. This tiering was primarily influenced by each super's kill potential, where most one-off supers are unlikely to wipe a team or remove combatants, but a long-lasting roaming super can and should have a trade-off as a result. The tiered list of all of the supers are listed on the screen. There has been also a slight energy regeneration reduction for subclass neutral game perks by roughly 50% in PvP, which we'll show on the screen here as well. And there was also some exotic armor changes, which we will have displayed on the screen here. There was also some armor mod reductions, about 50% in PvP, depending on the number of copies of the mod you have slotted, which we'll also have displayed on screen here. Stasis Crystals have had a slight buff and debuff. So while forming, Stasis Crystals now slow nearby enemy players instead of freezing them. However, they will still freeze PvE combatants. The crystal detonation damage has also been reduced by about 55% for PvP. The crystal detonation damage has also been increased for PvE by about 60%. So there are some changes to the Hunter. So in terms of the changes, we have some slight adjustments to the dodge mechanic. The Hunter dodge will no longer break projectile tracking. The Marksman's dodge, the tier 10 mobility cooldown, has increased from 11 seconds to 14 seconds instead, and the base cooldown remains unchanged at 29 seconds. Ambler's dodge has also had a slight increase at the tier 10 mobility from 11 seconds up to 18 seconds, with a base cooldown duration of 29 seconds to a now 38 second change. Shatter Dive has also had some changes. It is much less lethal versus players in PvP due to the Stasis Crystal changes mentioned before. However, it is also much more lethal versus combatants due to the Stasis Crystal changes. Shatter damage has also been increased by 100% versus frozen PvE combatants. The Grim Harvest aspect has also increased from a total of 2 slots to now 3 slots. Combination Blow on Top Tree Arcstrider has also had its base cooldown duration reduced from 96 seconds to 15 seconds. Night Stalker Bottom Tree has had its Vanish and Smoke melee reduced down from a 96 seconds cooldown to 75 seconds. Titans have had a slight change in regards to their shoulder charges, with all shoulder charges no longer being a one-shot hit. The sprint activation has been reduced slightly, with an increased range from 5.5 meters to 6.8 meters, and an adjustment to the cone width by about 10%, as well as some damage increases in PvE. Seismic Strike AoE damage has been decreased down to 40 from 90, with a ability to blind enemies in the area on hit. Shield Bash as well has been reduced with the AoE damage down to 40. Hammer Strike has also had its direct impact damage reduced down to 120. The Towering Barricade has been increased to 40 seconds on the base cooldown, with Rally Barricade's cooldown being reduced down to 32 seconds. Diamond Lance has had its fragment slots increased from 1 to 3 instead, with the Diamond Lance spawning in on PvE combatant kills with a stasis weapon, killing 3 players with stasis weapons in a single life, killing an enemy with a stasis ability, or shattering an enemy. Shiver Strike has had its damage increased while in Glacial Quake by about 50%. Increased damage resistance versus PvE combatants from 25 to 40% with Whisper of Chains. For Bottom Tree Striker, Knockout, the melee lunge range and melee damage bonus now deactivates after a melee kill. Trample, super energy gain from Fist of Havoc light attack now decays to a minimum amount over 3 PvP kills. Frontal Assault melee has had its base cooldown increased from 82 to 106. Fist of Havoc, the slam radius has reduced from 8 to 6 meters for the bottom tree. Now for the Warlock. The uncharged melee has had its melee range reduced from 5.5 to 4.5, which now matches that of the Hunter and Titan classes. A reduced suppression time after melee can now be back-to-back at the same speed as Hunter and Titan. Handheld Supernovas have also had a reduced damage versus players, now deal up to 150 damage max. Increased damage versus champion bosses has increased by about 30%, with increased projectile range from 12 meters to 14 meters. It will now also push away targets away from the Warlock at detonation. Nova Warp, the damage versus bosses and champions has increased by about 30%. For Stasis, Winter's Wrath has had its Shatter Pulse damage reduced versus enemy supers. Must now generally freeze and shatter all supers twice to eliminate. Innumerable Blast, the proximity detonation has been increased by about 100% versus PvE combatants. With Bleak Watcher, while it is equipped, all Stasis Grenades charge at Glacier Grenade rates. That's it for all the major changes. There is one more thing to note. Destiny 2 is also leaving Game Pass for console and cloud. However, if you are playing on PC, you still have that access there. Please keep in mind that for the Forsaken campaign will still be available for free for all players up until the launch of the Witch Queen in February 2022. If you like our content and would like to see more, please leave a like and let us know how we're doing so we can keep upping our content and providing you with future videos.